been a rough last few years for Auburn football. The Tigers are just 17-19 over the last 3 seasons and are coming off back-to-back losing seasons under Bryan Harsin. But now, it's time for the Hugh Freeze era to begin on the Plains. And that is bringing a lot of excitement back to Auburn football. But will it bring success in year 1? So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. Check out our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years. One of the lowest prices in the country for some of the best picks in the country. Guaranteed money right in your pocket. Guaranteed winning season every single year. Do not miss out on that offer. Go sign up for that today. Check out our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round. Become a member of our Patreon Wall of Fame. And check out our mailing address. Send us some SEC gear. Send us some Auburn gear as we try to expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And, of course, that gear is going to be represented in every single Gridiron Expert video. So let's take a look at Auburn, guys. I mean, this is a team that struggled the last few years. They're on their 3rd coach since 2020, and Gus Malzahn, then Bryan Harsin, now Hugh Freeze. And it's like, they're trying to return to glory. They're trying to return to being a contender, but can that happen in year 1? I don't know if Hugh Freeze is going to be a miracle worker in his first year with the Tigers. You take a look at offense. Freeze is a great offensive mind, has a great offensive coordinator in Philip Montgomery, the former head coach at Tulsa. I thought that was a great hire. Montgomery, typically a very good quarterback developer, and they're going to need that because right now they don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Could be Robby Ashford, who had plenty of playing experience last year, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, over 1,600 yards. Very mobile after rushing for over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. Many believe he actually might be the starter come week 1. But the Tigers also added Payton Thorne, the transfer quarterback from Michigan State. 25 starts with the Spartans, threw for nearly 6,000 yards during that time. The Tigers only had 173 passing yards per game last year. That's a bit of a concern. Those numbers have to improve. They do return their top 2 wide receivers, though. That's big for them. They also returned Jarquez Hunter as well, 675 yards on the ground last year. But will he be suspended? What's going to come of that after the big sex tape scandal deal that happened just a months ago? So something to kind of keep your eye on there as we approach the season. I don't think there's been really any word on that. Hunter's one of the better running backs in the SEC, but without him, whether it's for a couple of games or all year long, whatever it may be, the Auburn offense takes a major blow. You take a look at the defense. 9 starters back, huge for them, but the Auburn defense was no good last year. 29.5 points per game is what they were giving up. They were giving up 173 rushing yards per game, and that honestly is where they have to improve. They've got to improve in stopping the run. 4 of their top 6 tacklers are back. That's huge for them. Secondary is going to be really, really good, led by DJ James. So I think the passing defense is solid. If you solid up that run defense, and I think defensive coordinator Ron Roberts, coming in from Baylor, is going to do a pretty good job of that. This Auburn defense can take a major step forward. I actually believe they'll improve their points per game defense by almost a full touchdown, going from 29.5 closer to 22, 23 points per game. I really think they're going to be that much better. You take a look at Auburn's schedule. It's good and bad. Good enough to get to a bowl game, but Auburn fans, would you be happy with that? Are you good with just 6-6, 7-5? I don't know if 9 or 10 wins is realistic this year. You take a look at the schedule. I think they start 3-0. They'll beat UMass. They'll beat California. They'll beat Stanford. California, the toughest game out of all those. This is actually going to be Auburn's first trip to the West Coast since 2002 when they played USC. So a really unique matchup there. But in every aspect, from a coaching aspect, maybe you can make the argument defensively, and I would even say certainly offensively, Auburn owns the edge. California owns that edge at home field, but I don't know how much of home field advantage they're truly going to have. So I think Auburn, in a closer game than some expect, beat California. They're 3-0, and then the schedule gets tough. I mean, these next 4 games are brutal. A&M, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, some elite contenders in the SEC. They start on the road at Texas A&M, where in years past, Auburn has actually succeeded pretty well. It was really weird. A&M would typically win at Auburn. Auburn would typically win in College Station. It didn't make too much sense. But I don't think Auburn has enough to win at College Station this year. I know they beat the Aggies last year 13-10. They held that offense to just 215 yards. Both these teams were drastically disappointment. Both going 5-7, neither living up to their expectations. But this year, both should be drastically improved. But A&M more so than Auburn. 20 starters back for the Aggies. Bobby Petrino in as offensive coordinator is going to work wonders with that offense. Connor Weidman's looking great. They returned their top 4 pass catchers from last year. The defense was very, very good. For a 5-7 team, you wouldn't know it, but that defense was stingy for A&M. If they can stop the run, something they struggled with last year, the Aggies are going to be just fine. This is the team that's going to take a major step forward. 12th man's no joke. And I think this relatively young Auburn team, especially at the quarterback position, I think A&M takes advantage of that. They wake up and they get this win. Auburn drops the game on the road to the Aggies. I believe they certainly dropped the next game to Georgia. They lost to the Bulldogs 42-10 last year, allowed 500 yards of offense to the Bulldogs. I don't know if anybody can beat Georgia this year as they are on their quest to have a three-peat, win 3 straight national titles. But Auburn also hasn't played well against Georgia. They lost 5 straight regular season games. They've lost 15 of the last 18 games against Georgia. They've won 3 of the last 18 meetings. So Georgia has certainly dominated this series, and right now that continues to be the case. They lose to Georgia. They come out of the bye week. I think they lose to LSU. Yes, they only fell to the Tigers 21-17. Yes, they were leading 17-0 over LSU last year. Should have been a win for Auburn. Really should have. But this LSU team now, drastically different. In Death Valley, one of the most difficult places to play in the country. Auburn and LSU typically have close games. I'm not saying LSU is going to mop the floor with the Tigers, but Jaden Daniels is back. Malik Neighbors is back after a 1,000-yard season. They return all of their top rushers. Their defense is loaded, especially the back seven. That linebacking core is unbelievable. That secondary is unbelievable. And I just don't think LSU is going to lose at home to this Tigers team that still has a lot to figure out on both sides of the ball. You know, and some are going to say, well, hey, Auburn held LSU to 270 yards last year. That's really good, right? Defensively, we were up by 17. We blew it with a lot of boneheaded mistakes. Yes, that all is correct, but that was also early in the year before I think the LSU offense really found their identity and started to figure themselves out. LSU went on a tear at the end of last year. The offense was inconsistent, but I think they're going to be a lot more consistent this year. LSU wins, not big, but comfortably over Auburn. The Tigers are now 3-3, and then they play Ole Miss, the Hugh Freeze game. This is going to be interesting. Hugh Freeze at Auburn playing against his former school. Remember, he was the head coach at Ole Miss from 2012 to 2016. I don't think that Auburn can win this game. It is winnable, and I guess I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn won, but I'm looking at a lot of different factors here, and the biggest one is this guy named Quinshon Judkins at Ole Miss. Ole Miss beat Auburn 48-34 last year. Only a 14-point win. It's back and forth. But they had 448 rushing yards against this Auburn defense. And while Auburn's defense will be drastically better, I have no doubt about that. I don't know if they're that much better to beat this Ole Miss offense that's going to be amazing on the ground, and we know, per usual, is going to be very solid through the air as well. I don't think Auburn's defense has enough to slow it down. Yes, it's at home. Yes, Hugh Freeze is going to want this game maybe more than any other game on the schedule. He'll downplay it, but you know it's true. But I don't think that Auburn has enough to take down the Rebels. Would not be shocked to see it, but I think Ole Miss offensively is too much for Auburn to handle. Ole Miss defensively, not great. They allowed 34 points and tons of yards to Auburn as well. So I think you see another back and forth game, but ultimately the experience and continuity of that Ole Miss team shows in this game. They take down Auburn in a close one. Hugh Freeze unable to get revenge over his former team. They do beat Mississippi State the next week, though. So they end their 4-game losing streak. Again, this is a brutal stretch. I mean, I don't care who you are. Facing the reigning national champions, the SEC West champions from last year, and a good Ole Miss team, and then a road game at A&M. That's a tough stretch. I mean, not many teams would be able to handle that very well. So Auburn goes 3-4 heading into the Mississippi State game. They beat Mississippi State. They should have won last year. They lost 39-33 in overtime. They trailed 24-6 at halftime. Battled back, took a 33-30 lead with a little over a minute left, but allowed Mississippi State to go tie it up and then lost the game in overtime. But now the Bulldogs, you hate to see it, obviously, the passing of Mike Leach. Dealing with a new coach now, new schemes, questions on both sides of the ball to an extent. The game is at home for Auburn. They know they need this win. They should have won last year, probably should have won the year before. I'm going to give them the win over the Bulldogs. They get back to 500. I think they beat Vanderbilt on the road. Can't overlook Vanderbilt either, a team that won 2 conference games last year. They beat Kentucky. They beat Florida. Seem to be trending in the right direction under Clark Lee. So can't afford to overlook the Commodores by any means. You're off your A game. Vandy can beat you, but I don't think they do. I think Auburn wins that game. They've got their 5th win of the year. Then they go on the road to Arkansas. I think they fall to the Razorbacks. They fell to Arkansas 41-27 last year, allowed 520 yards to the Hogs. And here's the thing. Arkansas loaded with talent offensively again. KJ Jefferson is arguably the best quarterback in the SEC. Rocket Sanders is one of the best running backs in the SEC. The offensive line looks to be solid once again. And the defense, as bad as it was last year, really can't get much worse and should improve drastically on both sides. Just like we expect Auburn to do. So in Fayetteville, I really have a lot of faith in Arkansas getting the win here. So the Razorbacks get a much-needed win in terms of their bowl hopes. Auburn needs one more win to go bowling. They get it the next week over New Mexico State. Shouldn't be much of an issue there. Senior day, or almost senior day, inferior opponent. They got 6 wins. And then you have the real senior day at home against Alabama. This is a big one, right? A lot of people are going to say, we're beating Alabama because we have Hugh Freeze, and he beat them twice at Ole Miss. Okay. No. Yes, Hugh Freeze is a good coach. Yes, he did beat Alabama twice at Ole Miss. He's one of the few coaches to go out there and outcoach and beat Nick Saban multiple times. That's a very difficult thing to do. Not dogging that. Yes, Jordan-Hare Stadium is a very difficult place to play, and there's something about that stadium and that environment when they play Alabama. Alabama has lost 3 of the last 5 games at Auburn. It really probably should have been 4 of the last 5. Auburn should have won 2 years ago, but Alabama came back, had that miraculous game-winning or game-tying drive, and won the game 24-22 in 4 overtimes. This game's close. Hugh Freeze has his guys ready to go. Auburn's ready to go. Everybody understands the importance of the Iron Bowl, but I ultimately think Alabama is a little bit too much. I think the Alabama defense is too good. If the Auburn passing game doesn't take a major step forward, that Alabama secondary is going to feast on it, which means Auburn's going to have to win the game on the ground with a mobile quarterback or just with their running back, who we assume will be Jarquez Hunter. I don't think they can solely win the game on the ground against Alabama. The Crimson Tide offense might not be all that great either, but if you're looking for who owns the defensive edge, it is Nick Saban and the Tide. The game is very, very close. And like I said, there's always something in the air when the Iron Bowl comes around, especially at Jordan-Hare Stadium. But I like Alabama just a little bit. Hugh Freeze drops this game. Auburn finishes 6-6. Many of you are going to say that's ridiculous. We're winning the national championship, and you can go ahead and believe that all you want, but it's just not going to happen. I can see Auburn winning 7 or 8 games. Maybe they do beat Ole Miss. We don't think they do. Maybe they snag another win in there. Honestly, it would probably have to come against probably Arkansas. I don't think they're beating Alabama. So I really think the best Auburn can do this year is 7-5. 8 wins would be really, really impressive in year 1 under Hugh Freeze. But this, to me, is still a bowl team. You're going to see a much more competitive team than you saw last year, a much more improved team than you saw last year. You're going bowling after missing out last year. You win your bowl game, you clinch your first winning season since, 2020. I think Auburn's going to be fine under Hugh Freeze, but it's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take time to get his guys in there to rebuild this program. Could have it going as soon as next year. But this year, just laying the solid foundation and getting to a bowl game, I think, will do just that. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round, our mailing address. Send us some gear to be represented in every single Gridiron Expert video as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.